Hey guys, welcome to BTech. I'm Basil and this is an LG G Flex. Now it's one for all you early adopters out there. It's more expensive than the other phablets with the same specs and that 6-inch screen. But the cool thing about it, it's got a curve and it bends. Well, it bends a little bit. With a flexible OLED display that LG's created, it really is different to anything we've seen before. We weren't so sure about it when all those guys across the pond got one, but now that we've actually got it in our hands, we're kind of sold on this thing. We're going to start off by telling you about the design, and well, it looks very different to the competition. Obviously, you've got that flex factor, so if you sit on it, it will flex along with your bum. And generally, it's a very nice curve. It's ergonomic and it sits well in the hand as well as we'd imagine the back pocket too. Given the fact you've got no buttons on either side, the bezeling is minimal. All the buttons are on the back in standard LG style with a volume button set as well as a power button underneath the camera module. Up at the top you've just got an infrared blaster, and down at the base is a 3.5mm jack and a micro USB port. It's also got a scratch resistant coating on the back which LG claims is self-healing. Now it's self-healing for small scratches maybe to a point, but any deep lesions you can forget about it. All in all though, design wise, this is the first really plasticky device we've seen that really gets away with being so plasticky given how light it is, and of course you've got that curve. Now the reason the curve is there is that display, POLED, plastic OLED, flexible, but the quality, is it there? Well, it is actually, for the most part, when the brightness is ramped up. When the brightness is down, you've got a slight dappling to it. We were really concerned that the fact this is 720p spread across 6 inches would mean you'd get that pentile bittiness, but you don't. You get a totally different kind of bittiness. It's kind of like a dappling. See it in the shops and drop the brightness down to about 20% and you'll see what we mean. As soon as you ramp the brightness over 70% though, everything looks very good indeed. And it actually looks a little bit sharper than we'd expect a 720p OLED to look, which is great. And the curvaceousness, of course, how could we forget? That curve makes a movie viewing experience freaking awesome. When you're viewing it in portrait, reading ebooks on it is also pretty decent as well. So all in all, great screen experience, and the user interface with all of LG's marshmallowy effects is also shown off to perfection. Running Android 4.2.2, we'd expect to see a slightly newer version of the OS, but it's not the be-all and end-all because you don't really see all that much Android on here. LG has customized this thing, as we suggested earlier, to the nines. You've got transitions, you've got massive array of options in your notifications bar. It's very functional and perfect for anyone who wants to tinker with their user interface until the cows come home. If you want something simpler, you can throw a launcher on here, and given the processor power, it will work a treat. As far as actually navigating through the UI though, it is Android, notifications bar, applications tray, etc. Key highlights, the Q Slides apps are cool, so you can have floating apps and you can tweak the transparency of them. Our favorite thing is still knock on and knock off, where you can double tap the screen to wake it up and to put it to sleep. And obviously you can launch this thing in guest mode from the lock screen too. Moving on to the 13 megapixel camera, and it's good. It's not the best out there. Now this doesn't have optical image stabilization like the LG G2, so it's not going to be as good at low light shots, but it still manages to eradicate a fair amount of noise and deliver a good picture 8 times out of 10. The flash is also decent, so all in all the camera will provide a respectable phablet experience on par with the Samsung Galaxy Note, for example. You also have stacks of shooting modes, HDR, panorama, etc. So you won't be disappointed if you do want to have a bit of a play around. Movies are shot in full HD resolution, and there's something called tracking zoom, which is super cool. We really enjoyed this. It allows you to just drag a magnifying glass box around the screen and then you can actually zoom in on a specific part of your movie. We do quite like the camera. The picture's good, saturation's good, audio recorder's okay, and you've also got the audio zoom as well. So yeah, thumbs up on the general imaging front. And multimedia too. You can install apps like Netflix, BBC iPlayer and Spotify on here given you've got Android, and the screen really does show them off to perfection. You probably won't be streaming in anything above 720p anyway, and this device is perfect at that resolution. It looks an absolute treat, and the rounded screen really does add an almost 2.5 dimensional quality to the viewing experience. Internals include a Qualcomm Snapdragon 800 processor, clocked at 2.23 GHz. You've also got 2 GB of RAM on here as well. With a 720p screen, it's going to place a little bit less pressure on that processor than were a Full HD screen. So compared to Full HD counterparts, it actually benchmarks a little bit better. It's also got 32 GB of onboard memory, which should be ample for most, though this is not micro SD expandable. As far as other connections go, you can expect LTE, 3G obviously, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, everything you're going to want, and that IR blaster as well. With a 3500 milliamp battery, it's also going to see you through at least a full day. We found it to be very power efficient, so we're very impressed when we got to about a day and a half, almost 2 days into it, and we still had some juice in the tank. All in all, a great, unique novelty device. It is expensive. It's definitely going to be one for the early adopters, but if you're a massive geek, then you are going to lap this up. Hopefully you've enjoyed. I've been Basil, this has been the LG G Flex, and you've been watching our video review. If you've enjoyed it, make sure you click the like button below if you're watching this on YouTube. If you are and you like our videos, click subscribe and head over to btech.com where you can find all the latest in smartphones, tablets, and some pretty awesome deals as well. At the top of the screen is where you can find 3 hand-picked videos for your viewing pleasure. On the bottom left is where you can subscribe, and on the right hand side you can check out our exclusive deals over at btech.com.